Okay, out of respect for everybody's time, it is just after 12. We're going to start the meeting. Ryan, if you could give me the first slide again, the agenda slide. Nope, next one. Okay. So if everyone could go ahead and end your conversations, take a seat. Hopefully you got some food. But come forward, sit down so that we can get this meeting going. There's quite a bit that we need to cover. And it would be great if we can end the meeting before people get tired. So please come forward, take a seat, and let's start the meeting. Well, I can. No, they're quieting down. Okay, if everybody could please come and take a seat so we can start the meeting. Please take a seat so we can start the meeting and end your conversations because we've got a lot to cover. All right, welcome to our first congregational meeting of the new year. Hopefully all of you have some kind of goals or themes you're working on this year. You saw me trying something new. I've played for a really long time, but I never really play for people, so that was fun. So hopefully we all take this year to work on something we're working on. Now, for the agenda, our first item is determine a quorum. Now, we need to have 20% of our members sign in and be present in order to conduct business. We do have one single voting item on the agenda, and that one item is to discuss the principles, the one item is regarding the principles and sources and potentially adding them to our charter. If everyone could please end their conversations so that we can continue with this meeting, that'd be helpful. Okay, so if you are a member and you haven't signed in at the front table, please do so now. I know that last I checked we were a couple short, but we're going to continue on with the meeting, and hopefully those last few signatures will come in. Okay, so let's, Ryan, wait. So the items on the agenda are one vote, and then we're going to talk about this year's General Assembly delegates, emergency contact forms, an update on the VUU property mortgage, the pledge drive, an update on the pledge drive, congregational survey report, and then I'll present the results of the bylaws vote. Again, it's very distracting if you continue your conversations. Please end your conversations so that we can have the meeting. All right, I'm going to have to do the whole clap. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. Thank you. All right, let's go on the next slide, please. Okay, so that was not what I wanted. Special committee update. Next slide. Oh, whew. I was worried that, that last slide wasn't supposed to be there. But anyway, let me start with the background. We've been talking about this amendment for quite some time. And it really started in concert with the UUA changing their bylaws. The UUA went through a 3-year process reviewing the bylaws that contained some very important parts of Article 2, specifically the 7 principles and 6 sources. And ultimately, last summer, the decision was that the UUA replaced what was the 7 principles and 6 sources with a different version with many similar aims, but changes. Now, in response, the board ultimately came to the decision to put this in front of the congregation, that the idea that we might include a version of the 6 sources and 7 principles in our bylaws, the VUU's bylaws, what defines this congregation. We put that to a vote, but I want to be clear. Thank you. I want to be clear that the board is not trying to say that we think this should or should not be in our bylaws, but we're not trying to suggest that there is a right answer here, but we do feel like it's something that should be voted on by this congregation, whether or not we should include the 7 principles and 6 sources to our bylaws. So we proposed a language, and at our last congregational meeting this past summer, and there was a motion to delay and give an opportunity for more discussion and potentially a revised language, and that happened. The board had established a special committee chaired by Deanne McClenahan, and they provided a revision that we presented at a previous congregational meeting. Can we get the next slide? Okay, so to lay the groundwork, our current bylaws, Article 2 of VUU's bylaws, currently only have these 2 items, Section 201, a mission statement, and Section 202, a covenant. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are the proposed changes that we are voting on. Now, anything in orange is brand new just for VUU, and anything in that gray is taken directly from the 1985 version of the UUA principles and sources. So we're keeping the 2 sections that I just showed you, and then potentially we're voting on this new section, Section 203, Principles and Sources, and I'll go ahead and read it. We, the Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation, wish to retain and honor the language of the 7 principles and 6 sources as adopted by the UUA in 1985. As we have come to love and to live by these words, we wish to preserve them as both a significant part of our history and our current covenant as a community. Next slide, please. So Section 203, the 7 principles, I may have messed up the numbering, but this would be or continuation. Numbering aside, we altered it slightly. We, the members of Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation, covenant to affirm and promote 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. 3, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. 5, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Next slide, please. Just in the interest of time, I'm not going to read every word on this slide, but this is, as you can see, the gray text, this is all taken directly from the 1985 version of the sources. Okay. I think I do not have... Ryan, can you just preview the next slide? Yeah. Okay. So back up 1 slide then. Okay, before we vote, this motion is now on the floor because the board has put it there. At this point, it's going to be a discussion. I do have a mic. I imagine... And Tom will bring it around. I imagine there should be some comments for and against it. By all means, we want to have this discussion. And we have lots of other things on the list, but this is the one voting item. So after our discussion, we'll call the question. You'll all vote using the QR code on the screen. And then we'll go through the additional items, and then we'll present the results of the vote. But the vote, since this is a bylaws change, it would require 2/3 of those voting to approve it. It needs, I think that's a supermajority. Anyway, 2/3 of us voting. Tom?
You have a limited capability for paper ballot if somebody can't vote with a QR code.
Okay, so if you have a comment for or against this this bylaws amendment, please raise your hand, and Tom will come and we'll hear from you and go for it. Thank you.
Hi, thanks. I'm voting for putting the 7 principles into our bylaws. They were taken out of the national bylaws, and I became a UU because of these. Respect for the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice and compassion in human relations. I can recite them by heart. My favorite is the one that says, a free and independent search for truth and meaning, because unlike other religions, this makes me responsible for finding truth and meaning in my life. These mean a lot, and I'm voting for them. I hope you will too.
Hi, I am a little wobbly. I've been a member of this congregation since 1985, and it means a great deal to me, not simply because of my friends, of whom there are many here, but because of what the principals spoke to me. I was raised UCC, and many of you know that the United Church of Christ Congregational has does a lot of things with the UUA. So it was not a big step for me to become a Unitarian Universalist, but the reason the step held was because of the principles and sources. And I know that some people have said, actually one of them to me, that this is just a slap in the face to the UUA. But I don't see it that way. I see it as respect for our tradition and for principles that meant a great deal and still mean a great deal to many of us. We wouldn't have had this church, and I've also heard, unfortunately, one person saying, well, it's only the old people who want this, and our new people don't care and like the new principles. And I'm glad that people like the new principles, but, you know, as an old person who's been here a long time, some of us old people are the reason this church still exists. We had some very difficult times, and it's hard to be seen as simply unthinking reactionaries. It's hard for me to think of myself as a reactionary, although my granddaughters occasionally tell me I am. I hope you'll vote for this, because it doesn't have anything to do with the UUA. It has to do with us and what we want to have on our bylaws, and as a point of something that many of us think is very dear.
Just have a seat, Mary. Okay. Yeah. Then I'll go. Okay, I'll go there and then back to you next.
I know that you didn't read the sources because of time, but I can't see that at all. So tell me what the sources are.
Ryan, could you put the sources slide back on the... So I think maybe it would be appropriate for me to read it in its entirety. Likely you will find that this is very familiar. Okay. The living tradition which we share draws from many sources, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Words and deeds of prophetic people which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. Humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Grateful for the religious pluralism which enriches and ennobles our faith, we are inspired to deepen our understanding and expand our vision as a free congregation. We enter into this covenant, promising to one another our mutual trust and support.
Thank you.
Okay, go with you next, Deanne.
Thank you. Not super young, but I don't think I'm old. And I'm not super new, but haven't been, maybe 5 or 6 years more than that. But part of what drew me to the congregation and to UU was the 7 principles. And the words that were just read from the sources and the 7 principles have had a really big impact on me, in addition to just coming here. When I left my religion of upbringing, I left with some frustrations, as a lot of us do. And those principles and those ideas and those sources and this congregation helped me to make a healthier path for myself out of that and into something that still respects others and has allowed me to explore my own spirituality. I would say it inspired me to explore my own spirituality in really healthy ways, in ways that I've been benefiting from. So they're beautiful words. I personally don't find that kind of inspiration from the newer, what is it called? Thank you, values. And there's nothing wrong with, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but it's the lack of specificity that doesn't inspire me, and it is the specificity of the way we're all interconnected and the various paths that we take in respecting others' paths and choices and things like that. That is what inspires me. So I would hope that you'll consider voting to keep or to add those words.
First, I want to say that Linda Muth is not here, and she would like to speak, so I'm trying to get her phone number. If anybody here has it, maybe we can call her. Okay, so I'll speak first, and then we'll try to call Lynn. I'm Deanne, and I've been a Unitarian Universalist for 63 years, which is my whole life. And I was on the committee that created this proposal because I like for our congregation to have good discussion and to come to consensus on something. I am going to vote against this proposal regardless. And that's because ours is a living tradition. The Unitarians and the Universalists were Christian before I was around. They have changed a lot in 63 years. And our words change, but what we do hasn't really changed. So I am much less concerned about the exact words than I am about this congregation and about our denomination. And I think that I don't agree maybe that this is a slap in the face to the UUA, but it is saying we're pissed off that you changed our words, and we want to put those words in our church's bylaws. And I think enough work went into changing the UUA bylaws that we should honor them, not more than these, but at least as much.
Before we go on to more comments, I want to make a quick technical note. The voting, no one is voting just yet. The QR code that many of you saw on the screen before is only for online people, and that's just for them to register. And if you did register online, you should receive an email when we open the voting that will link you to a way to vote for or against. So if you're online, you can't vote yet. Just just wait, and we'll send you an email when everybody else can vote. And here in the sanctuary, you'll get a new QR code to get you to vote. And if there's any concern, or if it doesn't work, whatever, you can just log your vote with Tom at the front. So let's continue with the comments, but I wanted to make sure that everyone knows you're not supposed to vote just yet. Okay, thank you.
I think Evan was next, and then I'm going to
Evan, let's see if anybody, looks like.
Evan, did you?
Are you still on?
Yeah, okay, and then Debbie, repeat.
My name's Evan. I'm been a congregant here since 2006. I have a question to begin. If we vote yes to keep the 7 principles and the sources from 1985, are we in any way specifically rejecting or saying we don't accept the new language, or are we just saying that the new language exists, it was voted on at the national level, we understand and accept it, but these things still really mean a lot to us, and we'd like to just have this in our language so that going forward we can be reminded that these principles have and still do mean a lot to us. That's my question.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Debbie Simpkins. I do not want to get into the puff chest war of who's been a member longer here at VUU or who's been a Unitarian longer, because I don't think that has anything to do with the current question. And I would like to state for the record that I'm not at all angry, but I am voting for this change. And I'm voting for it because I have built my own religious traditions and those of my family on these principles and these purposes. These are what I read when I need inspiration in what is a very broken world, and they are very meaningful to me. The one thing I am personally learning as I get older is that things will change. Sometimes they will change for the better, sometimes they will change for the worse. I am not in command of those changes. I am only in command of my reaction to them. I personally am not going to object to the replacement of these by the UUA, because I understand through deep conversations with my own children that there are ways right now of viewing the world and viewing our place in it and viewing our ability to exist and live in harmony with each other that I frankly just am never going to get. It has changed. The thinking has changed, and I honor that, and I honor the leaders, the ministers who are doing their best to take our denomination and bring it forward into a future that new generations and new members can hold dear and can participate in. But I also think that it would be, I also wish that the rest of us who know that we're at the stage of our lives where we're building the tomorrow for everyone else now, I wish that there would be honor for the lessons and the beliefs that we have held dear and that still speak to us. And that's why I would like to respectfully suggest that I think we can all live together here. I think we can have these principles and purposes in our VUU charter, and I think we can also work with the UUA and grow and learn together and move forward. And I am voting yes, and I would love it if other people would do that as well. And thank you.
At this point, I want to hear everybody's points of view, but I'm thinking the best I can do is abstain. I've been hearing a lot about what Jimmy Carter did for equal rights and for racial discrimination, and he compares. I've got his statements here about the segregation that he grew up with, that he didn't participate in, and his positions on women's rights as parallel to that. And he speaks of people just quietly, the people who have the privilege just quietly having the privilege and saying that they respect the other privilege and quietly continuing to keep that privilege. And I was moved, particularly somebody who was it handed a paper out this morning. Mark Beeler, yeah, and it is the eighth principle that has kind of stumbled on this, and I'm wondering if we are quietly hanging on to privilege that other people don't have, and saying that we are privileging everyone. Thank you.
Hello. I wasn't going to say anything today, but as Mary brought up, most of the people who are talking about this are older, and I am 17. So, as someone who was raised in this church and who was raised on the principles, I have found that having the specific wording of the principles has given me a chance to figure out and analyze what life is and like what the people do in the world, especially in classes where like critical thinking skills, like English. Like I've been able to think about the world in different ways that my peers don't have, and that's been really valuable to me. The principles are how I think about things. They're like what I can analyze it based on. And no matter if we keep them or not in the bylaws, they're still something that's going to be valuable to me and that I will be using. So.
I'm Jody Freeman, and I didn't mean to say something earlier. I was surprised at the concern about we're slapping UUA in the face, because I voted yes, and I will vote again yes, but I did not intend it to be an oppositional vote. The principles, I'm having trouble with the fact, the principles are so old, they're from 1985. I'm from 1948. And I'm feeling like just because I'm old, I don't need to be shut up. I didn't mean to, whatever. But I was just in a gas station last week where they were selling copies of the Constitution. That's really old, but we still live by it. And I don't plan on thinking that everybody is nasty people that no longer have an inherent worth and dignity. And I really am sorry that we no longer value world peace. That one blew me away. But I'm just... A little, as Rev Sam said, a little UU prayer for peace here.
Then Lynn wanted to say something, right? Yeah, I've got Johnny now. I got you in too. So it's Lynn who's right?
Yeah, but
she hasn't said it yet.
she hasn't. All right. She decided. Okay. Wait a minute. No, here it is. Okay, Lynn says, I'm going to vote in support of including the principles and sources. I especially appreciate the inclusion of the sources because they outline our history as a denomination and its recognition of the diversity of our views and religious backgrounds. When I joined VUU, it was these principles and sources that resonated with me, especially giving me permission as a non-believer to express this in a safe place. And is Joanne next? Okay. So, sorry, Joanne Smith wants to speak. Joanne?
I'm here.
All right, you're on.
Thank you. Well, as many of you know me, I used to be the GA junkie. And I was in the GA meetings when these principles were debated and discussed. I'm here. All right, you're on. Aren't I talking?
Yes, Joanne, turn your computer down. Turn your computer down.
I muted my sound on the TV, okay? Is that better?
Much better.
Okay. I'm sorry I can't be here in person, but mobility issues prevented that. These principles mean a lot to me because I was in the body of the GA that voted on these both times. And I think they represent a lot to all of us. We're not saying we can't accept the UUA revisions, but we want to keep what's near and dear to us. So thanks for listening, and thank you, Deanne, for letting me do this. Bye.
Thanks, Joanne.
Yeah, let's see. I'm sorry, I lost track. Okay.
I'm not going to tell you how old I am. I am concerned, and I would like the new version because of the sources. We need to make sure it's clear that we accept all religions. The way it's written, the new way, does not at all say that we can be pagan, we can be Christian, we can be all those different religions. And I think it should say that. That's it.
I'll make this short. I'm not unhappy with including the principles and sources. I am unhappy with including the principles and sources without also including the new language.
The new language of the UUA? Okay, for Article 2, okay. Donna is next. Donna?
Actually, all I'm asking is someone to please answer Evan's question. A lot of us here are new and would like the answer to that question.
Mark, the question was, is if we vote yes on this and it passes, does it mean that we are formally rejecting the UUA's Article 2 new language?
I can answer that. So what we would be voting on is the exact text that I just presented and nothing else. There is no mention in this proposal of what the UUA does or has in their Article 2. It's not a rejection, it's not an acceptance, it does not reference the UUA's current language. So it's silent on that issue. And how I view that is that they're separate things.
I'm Randall Casillas. I've been in this church for quite a while as well. I'm voting against this. I did raise my children with these values as well. I do like the new Article 2. I'm concerned about including these in the bylaws. I don't know. To me, it's fine if we include these in a historical record of some kind as a referral, because these were things that we have, and it's good to include it in a historical record. But this is my concern. Okay, supposing that we know they're going to revise more articles. Okay, so are we going to add more things to our bylaws that we are unhappy about? Okay, this is the question I have for you all. Okay, and so I'm liking what they've done, because I think we're trying to become a more inclusive congregation, and we know right now we're not very inclusive. And having raised kids that are biracial, this is something that I want to see. Okay, so that's where I stand.
Regarding the issue of this being a slap in the face to the UUA or an oppositional vote, I wish I had the wording with me. I was on the committee, so I did a lot of reading and thinking about this. But if you go to the frequently asked question page about Article 2 on the UUA website, it says, we fully anticipate, and those are the exact words, I can't remember exactly the others, but we fully anticipate that congregations will continue to use and reference and honor the principles and sources. So the UUA itself has mentioned that. I'm in support of this, not because I miss the principles and sources, because I don't. Actually, the more I look at them and read them, the more I like the new values. But, and maybe this is bad logic or thinking on my part, but I know that people were really, really hurt by losing the principles and sources. And the commission itself uses the word grief, that we understand that people are grieving for the loss. So I thought, this is great. We can gift this to the people who are hurt by the loss of the principles and sources. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we were a both-and congregation? I mean, if anybody can be both-and, it should be Unitarian Universalists. Again, my thinking might be incorrect, but I'm voting for it to maybe bring some peace to those who were really, and I'm not one of them, but that were really hurt by the loss of the principles and sources. But we will continue, and I will continue to honor, and the more I read them and think about them, respect what that commission did in the difficult decision to, what do you do as a living tradition to move forward? So I don't see it as a step backward, but I see it as, let's honor the people who were really hurt by the loss of this and maintain it at VUU and be a both-and congregation.
Can we call the question? We have first Rebecca, and then...
So you have two comments staged, and then we'll call the question. Okay, we'll do it that way.
I'll be very quick. My understanding is that we are a member congregation of the UUA, and as such, the new values are part of us. They are part of what we have established as part of this congregation. This is just a layer on top of this. It does not in any way negate what the UUA has done.
Okay, Fortunately, I don't see any more comments, and it'd be great to vote on this right now, but if there are more comments, we can call a question. Okay, let's open voting, because I don't see any more comments. Ryan, can you go to the next slide to give everybody one more slide? Oh, good. Okay. So this is the QR code to bring you to a SurveyMonkey survey with only one question. The only options are, I believe, support, oppose, or abstain. Again, we need 2/3 in support for this bylaws amendment to take place. So if for some reason you're having any trouble, instead of dealing with the phone, you can come up to Tom and log your vote there. If it's just not working, please just come up and Tom will write down your vote. And then once we feel like everybody's had an opportunity, we'll move on to the additional agenda items, and then basically the last item will be to tell you the results of the vote. Okay, so let's, Ryan, next slide. Now, hopefully you all have had a chance to get the QR code that was on the screen. If you didn't, you can tell your vote to Tom, and we'll go about it that way because I don't want to delay too much with all the other content that we have going on. Please, if you're having any technical difficulties, just come up to this front desk and we'll go on with that. But let's move forward with our program. Linda Rand, are you here? Linda Rand has graciously accepted to chair our Denominational Affairs Committee, and they're doing some great work, and they're going to talk about it right now. Thank you.
Well, isn't it just lovely that I get to follow that? I think we will find less controversy in this topic. First of all, for those of you who are not aware, the Denominational Affairs Committee, I believe it officially began in July. David Shea, Jody Freeman, Ann Schneider, Deanna McClanahan, and Linda Stenholm, as well as myself, are on that committee. One of the things we have been chartered with is come up with a process for selecting VUU's delegates to the General Assembly. This year, the General Assembly will be held June 18th through the 22nd in my hometown of Baltimore. So I'm going to encourage people to come and eat soft-shell crab sandwiches with me. But what we did as a committee is we put together some selection criteria for our delegates. I'm not going to read all of it here, but we're really looking for people who have been members of VUU for a minimum of a year and have become engaged in VUU life, however you might define that, typically as volunteers on committees or such. And delegates must be willing to represent VUU and our congregation and support the congregation. We're asking delegates to represent VUU, make connections among other GA attendees, and what we really want to do is to learn and bring ideas back to our committees in the congregation. We want to be more involved in UUA, get a better understanding of what decisions are being made, how they're being made, and be able to bring that information back to VUU. Attendance at GA, we would prefer you attend in person. Virtual participation is welcome as well. There are business sessions that our delegates need to participate in, but there is a lot more going on in terms of workshops and lectures where you really get some of the meat of stuff that can be useful to the congregation. So right now, VU does not have an official process for selecting delegates. So we realize that, and if we want the congregation to be able to vote on delegates, for example, we really need to update our bylaws with an official process, such that this is something we could vote on in a congregational conversation. So David Shea is working with the board to come up with the appropriate bylaws amendment, which we will be able to see this summer, is that right? Yes, which we will see and be able to vote on later on this year. For now, our informal process is we'll be calling for delegates in happenings, maybe this week if I can get my act together and get it written up. If not, next week. The Denominational Affairs Committee will make recommendations on delegates to the board. If necessary, if we have 10 people interested in attending, we may poll the congregation on who they might like to see be our official attendees. And in any event, the board will appoint the delegates this year. But next year, the process will be different and a bit more formal. I know it seems a little early that we're doing this when it's not until June, but one of the factors we thought about here is if you are an official delegate and you register by the end of March, it saves you money on registration. So that's the reason that we're trying to do this. Also, although the GA is in June, there are many assemblies that happen a month or two before that, so it's good for us to have our delegates in place. And with that, I will take any questions. Yes, Barb.
How many delegates do we send, and do you have any idea about what the cost is to register?
We have been sending 7. I think that's still the number this year. That's how many slots we had last year. Cost of attendance, just over $400 if you register by the end of March.
And that's registration only, right? And you also have to have where you're staying.
Right.
Transportation.
Right. Yes. David.
So business-only delegates are free, and if you attend online for everything, the cost is a little less. And obviously, if you're traveling to Baltimore, lodgings, especially close to where the General Assembly is, are going to be quite expensive. So the sooner you line that up, that's another reason for doing this a little early, so people can arrange lodging at a price that's not too astronomical.
I was wondering if Special Funds considers money for people who go. When Bunny Clark started the endowment, part of it was so that people could be encouraged to go to GA as delegates. I mean, you couldn't just go to GA, but you had to go to GA as a delegate. And I don't know if that still holds. I'm just curious.
Well, the committee has discussed going to special funds and talking to them about that, but we have not done anything formal about that yet. But we will, because cost is definitely an issue and a hindrance to people. I will tell you that the hotel rates that I saw, well, for starters, registration for GA is open now. So you can go out on the UUA website and see all the details about pricing and stuff. Hotels are ranging from $175 to $200 a night. So that's what I know. Yeah, out. Which is why we said virtual participation is certainly an option, so. Yes, Deanne? Room sharing is also an optional, absolutely. Got to fill out the checklist about do you snore. But yes, room sharing is an option. All right, any other questions? Comments? Okay, I am done. All right, thank you.
Okay, now Barbara Bush is, Melissa Bush. I don't know why. You know, that happens. I don't know. Anyway, Melissa Bush is going to talk to us about emergency contact forms. Sorry for butchering your name.
Hello, thank you, Mark, for letting me have a few minutes. My name's Melissa Bush, and I've been a member of this congregation since 1993, so I've been around a while, and I've been on lay pastoral care for quite some time. And I am co-chair along with Carl Anderson. And then there's a whole bunch of us that you probably see in the front of the sanctuary that are listening ears for people and also online. So that's our main purpose. But one of the other things that we're trying to do this year is to get emergency contact forms filled out for everybody in the congregation. So we recognize that we're all getting older, including me, and that sometimes things can happen, and they can happen suddenly. We've had 2 deaths of members this past year in 2024, that were very sudden, and we did not have any contact information for them. And so reaching out to their family was very difficult. So I have forms that you can fill out. You don't have to fill out the whole thing. Really what we want is your main contact person. So if you have a medical power of attorney or a lawyer or somebody that would need to disseminate some information should you die unexpectedly. And because we're aging, we're also going to be having conversations about aging and how we feel about that. The chaplain I work with says we are the most youth-oriented, death-denying culture in the world, in the history of the world. And so we're trying to have conversations about that, even though they're uncomfortable. And so we also want to help you have conversations with your families about these things, because if you have children, the best gift you can give your children, I believe, is telling them what you do and don't want as you get closer to your death. it's really a gift, because I work in hospice, and I see a lot of people who don't know what their person would have wanted, and it's terrible. So having these conversations is really, really important. So I have life crisis forms. It's also available online if you like to do that. So it's under the community, on the line it says Community Resources, Caring Ministries, Life Crisis Form is what it's called. But I also have, if you're a Luddite like me, I also have paper forms, and you can return them to the office, so you don't have to do them today. Return them to the office, Sarah, Todd, put them in Sarah's mailbox, whatever. So anyway, I appreciate your attention, and we will be having more conversations about this kind of stuff, and I thank you.
Okay, now Joel Sands is going to give us an update on the annual pledge drive. Joel?
So for those of you who've noticed, when you come in to the services in the last month, there is a table in back that says the 2025 pledge drive has started. So we're kind of in what I've described as the quiet phase of our pledge drive. Many of you have donated year after year for several years. Some of you have donated for 1 or 2 years. And so the first thing that we're asking people to do for the pledge drive is to make their 2025 pledge. Those of you who've already made your 2025 pledge, to either say that you'll renew your pledge at the level that you were at. Hopefully, some of you are fortunate enough that you might be able to increase your pledge. But if you can't increase or renew your pledge, if you need to reduce your pledge for financial reasons, we're just asking those people who've pledged already in the past to make a pledge. And once we get those numbers in place, we'll have a baseline of what our 2025 baseline pledge is going to be. And then we'll start approaching some of the newer members who haven't pledged before, and other friends who might pledge even though they're not members. And then to report to the Finance and Budget Committee what that baseline level is, so that the Finance and Budget Committee can then determine what our worst case scenario budget might be, what our middle scenario budget might be, and what our stretch budget might be. And then once that is done, we can start approaching people who might be willing to increase their pledges, and also make a case to those people who haven't pledged yet to make a pledge so that we can either meet our mid-level budget or optimistically and hopefully to meet our stretch budget, to do the things that we have been planning to do for years, or maybe not for years, but we plan to do so that we can meet our goals for the new year. One question I've been asked, in fact, Donna just asked me this today, is if you make a pledge in 2025, what fiscal year does that go to? We're in an unusual situation where our fiscal year begins on July 1st of every year and runs through June 30th, which is not uncommon for organizations, either for-profit corporations or like Valley Unitarian Universalist, a nonprofit corporation. Your pledge, if you make a pledge in 2025, will go towards the 2025 to 2026 fiscal year. But what really matters, it doesn't, David? Calendar. You pay it in the pledge. Excuse me. The pledge goes to the calendar year. I guess it's sort of disconnected from what the fiscal year is. The finance team has the ability to take what pledges you make in 2025 and anticipate how that will fit into the 2025-26 budget. Is the more accurate way to put it. Thank you, David. So what it really matters is, if you could please, it's so easy to make your pledge. You can either go to the website, and at the top of the website, you'll see a toolbar, and there is a button that says Pledge. That button then puts a fillable form for you to fill out. It probably takes 2 to 3 minutes or even less to fill out. You make your annual pledge, what the amount will be. You decide if you're going to pay it all at once or if you're going to pay quarterly or monthly. But once you put that number in as to what your pledge is, then the finance and budget team have the information to work with to be able to start developing what the budget is going to be. So if I have one request of everybody here, and I'm looking around and I think I see probably 90% of you have pledged for years, please just get online and fill out that form. There's also the QR code on the poster and back. There are cards that have the QR code. Please help us get that part of the pledge drive out of the way so we can move on to the next part of the pledge drive, which is contacting members who may have not have pledged, or possibly contacting those people who are willing to increase their pledge. I do want to, one of the things, and this isn't any criticism at all, is we kind of got out of the habit of having a formal stewardship committee and a formal pledge drive. And candidly, we're still kind of out of that habit. We have a stewardship committee now, but we're still getting ourselves organized. Next year, we will have a plan in place that says this is when pledge drive is going to start, this is when pledge drive is going to stop. So we're a little bit less organized than we have been because of it just hasn't been a formal process before. But one thing I want to say is I'm really eager to get this pledge drive out of the way, not so much because I want to be able to report to Budget and Finance what the hopefully very good results are of this annual pledge drive, but also because the committee, which Debbie Simpkins is on the committee, Linda Muth, Linda Stenholm, Chris Saar, Bill Elliott are all on the committee. We're all excited to find ways to increase our financial stability through other sources of revenue other than coming back to our members year after year to ask for a pledge. That will always be an important part of our funding for our mission and our goals for the year. But we would like to start thinking of other ways to raise revenue so that we don't rely so much on members and we have some other sources of revenue to help us move towards the goals that we have as a congregation. So last word is please make your pledge. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me, joelsanis@gmail.com. Most of you have my phone number. I think I've texted half of you in this room at least. So call me, text me, email me, call Debbie, call Bill, call Linda. I will say that after this quiet part of the pledge drive, if those people haven't pledged who we really think we'll be calling you and emailing you to either help you with your pledge or answer any questions you have about pledge. Thank you all very much.
So I'll point out something quick. Many of you already know. For the last 6 years, we've been running deficit budgets in that we've been using one-time money to keep the budget going a little over $300,000 over 6 years. I think we've managed that very well. Some of it from the government, some of it from members, some of it from the capital campaign. That has helped us through the hard times. That money runs out this year. So we used about $50,000 this year to cover the budget. So to keep things at the same level, we need a pledge increase of at least $50,000. And also note we gave no raises to our staff last year. We all know what inflation has been like. The raises we have given haven't kept up with inflation. So you can think about that for a while. And if we want quality staff to take care of us, we need to take care of them. So whatever we can do in the next few weeks to lay a foundation for next year will be very appreciated by all of us.
Okay, now we'll have a preliminary report from the Congregational Survey, and more details are to come in the coming months, I believe, but I'll let the committee talk about it.
Brian, were you able to pull up the slides? Okay. Well, Nancy and I in the committee were thrilled that so many of you participated in the survey. And so we're just kind of doing a first look. And with that we're just super excited. And so half of our congregation participated. We gained valuable perspectives that's going to be informing our understanding. We are still kind of reviewing those qualitative questions that we had, but we just kind of wanted to give you kind of a first look of what we're doing. Just remember that this is half of the congregation that reported, so it's not everything. These are not views contained by our whole congregation, but just for people who came to the survey. So.
And Katie made slides, so I don't have the timing down because I made paper. But basically, there were 154 survey respondents.
You can go to the next slide, Brian.
The
next one.
Average adult worship attendance during the survey period was similar. And the only reason I can only say similar is one of the Sundays we counted the kids because it was a intergenerational Sunday, but the number pretty much matched 154 because the number with the kids included was 157. And that's approximately half of the currently registered 299 VUU adult members. I need to note, and this is something people have been kind of concerned about, but I checked the data, 77 or very close to that number of those individuals are soon to receive or have received membership contribution inquiry letters, which are probably called something else, but it's the letter that people get when we haven't had much contact with them after a year, when they haven't contacted and they're asked to tell us if they wish continued contact or not. After that happens, if you consider that if half of those people responded yes, we would end up with 38 people in addition to 227. So that's because 77 of the 299 people are receiving the letters. I know that's a little bit complicated, but it basically means our membership could drop some. It's important, you do the next slide business. Okay. It's important to note that 27 of the 154 respondents chose to be anonymous, and no respondent answered absolutely each and all survey questions. So every survey question has a slightly different response number. And I broke down the various demographic items into simplified groups. Those slides that you see, they have all the detail. And I decided we could read a lot of small numbers, and Katie has said she can provide you with those slides if you want them, so we'll take care of that at a later time. There were 150 out of 154 possible responses to the age question. Between under 17 and 25, there were 4 responses. 26 to 54, there were 40 responses. 55 to 70, there were 42 responses, and over 70, there were 64 responses. The simple breakdown of gender was essentially 3/4 of 151 respondents were female, the rest were male. In terms of the gender identity question, 10 of 151 respondents claimed gender identity other than male or female, and 3 of those said uncertain.
Next slide.
Regarding the racial identity question, 10 of 149 respondents claimed racial identity other than white or Caucasian. Ethnic identity, 23 of 149 respondents claimed non-dominant culture ethnic identity.
Next slide.
Participation, 93 of 148 respondents indicated that other people in their household besides the respondent themselves participate at VUU.
Yeah, sorry, and then go to the next slide. This one it's kind of complicated, but next slide. Yeah, household participation, yeah.
That's the one I just did. And then which one comes next?
Go to that's the fiscal.
That's the pledging.
Yeah,
okay,
sorry.
we got a slide out of order. In terms of pledging, the breakdown's a little more detailed, as you can see, but essentially 110 of 149 respondents said they pledge regularly. Regarding accommodations and
Next slide.
Sorry.
There we go.
I wasn't fast. I was too
you're
fast.
good.
Regarding accommodations and access, 59 of 142 respondents indicated need for access accommodations and/or equipment. Now we're done with the demographic descriptive data that we're in a position to report right now. You'll see the list in front of you of the 6 qualitative questions that we're in the process of analyzing now. There is somewhere between 850 and 900 responses that the committee is analyzing. Now I'm going to go through the 10-step process we have for analyzing those. And Katie put them in bullet points, so what I am going to say might sound a little different than what's up there, but they represent pretty much the same process. So here goes. First off, the assessment committee co-chairs, that's Katie and I, tested early data to determine if using language analysis tools, artificial intelligence, those sorts of things would be functional. That was found to be feasible. And for final data analysis, we used Claude, Gemini, and ChatGPT. When we ran and compared report results, this is number 2, we found that each tool had its own strengths, so we merged use of all 3 tools in our reporting. Number 3, when the final data was available, co-chairs each read all of the raw data and then ran the reports, number 4, and read all of those, just to make sure if there was any really strange outlier that we missed in our thinking or our planning or our whatever else you can miss things in a survey. We have all had those experiences on some level. Then those reports were provided to the assessment team, and so was the raw data, and each assessment, that's the easier way to do this is to say 2 readers from the assessment team reviewed each question, and then we met as a group and we reviewed them again. We found few issues of concern, and we're dealing with those now. And in most cases, that dealing involves asking additional language analysis queries. We found the language, this is number 7, we found the language analysis tools provided accurate reports. We all agreed that the humans comparing the raw and reported information was a crucial step. We worked to immerse ourselves in the data to accomplish that. We are now honing the data honing the analysis and preparing presentation of the language analysis results. Pareto charts are being created as visual aids for data understanding, and that work will be completed and presented to the board and CSM at the end of January. They'll be asked to contribute suggestions regarding additional analysis or questions or how the data is presented, those kinds of information. And then the results presentation, including some of the descriptive questions that we didn't explain in detail, as well as the qualitative questions, will be presented at the February 2nd Congregational meeting. Are there any comments at this point?
Yes.
Yes.
That's very impressive. I think you guys are doing a great job. And I'm really curious about the AI-generated results on the open-ended questions, because I've reviewed some of those for minutes. I'm on some committees, and we had AI reports on these committees, and I sent those minutes around, and the committee sent me back some nasty notes saying, don't send those things again. I didn't know what you... Anyway, at times in the past, we have actually provided a link to the SurveyMonkey compiled results or the Google, whichever we were using, to the closed-ended questions and the text to the open-ended question. I just wonder, are you going to provide a link for people who are interested in actually?
We're going to provide what the board decides we should provide. This is the board survey, and that decision needs to be made. But when that decision is made, you'll certainly have links to the reports. Whether you'll have links to the raw data or not is a board decision.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, one of our, we want to be very conscious of the fact that in the survey, we made it very clear that these would remain anonymous and be kept close, that we would not be, that they would be used for planning only. So we want to be respectful and not kind of allow raw data out there just in case it indicates, you know, it indicates to a person or something like that. And so that's kind of where we're leaning now. But then again, like Nancy said, it's up to the board.
Okay, I just wanted, I didn't mean it should be anonymous, absolutely, no names. But the only way to, for sure, avoid the perception of bias is, in fact, to make it available. That's the only way, for sure, to avoid that perception.
Thank you. Anything else? Take this paper, it'll make my life a lot easier, and I'll get out of here.
Thanks, you guys, and thanks everyone for filling it out. It's been really kind of fun.
Next slide, please. Didn't we have a, is there one previous to that? No? Oh, for some reason I thought there was a slide for a mortgage update, but Deanne, are you? Oh, yeah. Deanne, do you have those numbers? Yeah. Oh, okay.
There's no real update on the mortgage. Our mortgage reset itself after several years at a very low rate, which was amazing. I think we were paying 4.25%. It will now reset to 7.25% because of caps on the resetting. It could have been as high as like 9.5% because of the current rates, but that's where it'll be for a year. And so every year it can adjust depending on the market. So hopefully we, hit a little bit of a lowering of interest rates this year. But we do have the increase in the budget. In fact, we accidentally over budgeted for it.
Okay. And Ryan, one last slide. It would be the results of the vote. Okay, it's in. We received a total of 99 votes. Thank you for all who participated. We had 5 abstain, 72 in favor, and 22 opposed, which does pass the threshold of 2/3. The motion passes, and this will now be part of our bylaws. Okay, I believe that's it. Thank you, everyone, for all your dedication, time, talents, resources. Obviously, this is a community, and it takes everyone. So thank you. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Thanks.